Alright guys, how's it going today? I'm the Crowned Fiend, and as always, we're coming right back at you guys with What If Deku and Shinsou Were Heroic Spirits Part 2. Part 1 is on the co-host of this What If, King of Underworld's channel, link in the description below. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we're going to go ahead and get into it. He'll also be giving you guys a quick recap on what happened.
Alright, thanks for introducing me. My name is King of Underworld, as some of you may know. The absolute idiot from Australia. And to give a quick summary of what happened, he had gone through the family life of Shinsou, and his parents dying, parents abandoning him, then his father adopted him, now Masa dying from a villain attack because he had to sacrifice the few to save the many, in his eyes. And we've gone through Deku, who had awakened his powers as he thought, and struck his own dab of lightning, killing him. And then going up through a middle school, getting into fights, then passing the entrance exam. But I think that's just a quick summary I can give, and I'll let you start us off.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do starting things off for right now. So what we're going to start at is, the whole entrance exam part, that's done and over with. So Shinzo, he's walking to class today. It's his first day of school. And the person who Shinzo will be replacing in class 1A will be Aoyama. So just letting you guys know that. Mr. I Can't Stop Sparkling is going to be in another class. So yeah, that's just how it is. As pretty much Shinzo's walking up, as he just gets through the gates, as he's just like, okay, well, this isn't too bad. And then he gets to the door and he looks and he says, why in the hell is this door so huge? As that's when he feels a tap on his shoulders. He looks back and sees it's Jiro. He says, oh, Jiro, what's up? As Jiro says, nothing much. I'm glad that we're going to be in the same class. As Shinzo would say, yeah, I'm glad that we're going to be in the same class as well. As they would open the door and they would look around and they would just see Ida and Bakugo, as Shinzo would know Bakugo, but he would not know Ida whatsoever, except for that blue-haired kid that yelled at Midoriya. And that's all he would actually know Ida as he would just sit down, as he would just say, this is something I'm not going to interfere in, so it's whatever. As Jiro would sit right beside him, as Jiro's a lot darker in this one because, Shinzo saved her from being raped by a group of guys and forced to be a whore. So Shinzo just saved her from that by killing the people that were trying to make her their bitch and their whore. So yeah, that's pretty much how Jiro's personality is looking, because she's just a girl who's wanting to defend herself, and Shinzo's teaching her the arts of assassination. Because remember, Shinzo is the reincarnation of Kiritsugu Emiya of the assassin class servants. So he's particularly skilled in assassinations, as it was something that he's just normally passed down to be into. So yeah, anyways, Shinzo's just looking around and he sees another woman enter, and he's like, oh great, the airhead entered. As it's Cammy. Now, the person who Cammy is going to be replacing is going to be Toru, aka Invisible Girl. She will not be in here whatsoever because Cammy has taken her spot. And yes, Cammy is aged down to a first year, not a second year. So that's how that goes. As pretty much Deku starts to enter the room and Shinzo sees him, as he's just like, oh, this is going to be funny. As he pretty much just grins as he looks over there to see Cammy, as he just motions his head over there. As she looks around, she says, oh, it's you. And Deku just walks over there and says, "Oh, hi, love. How you doing?" As pretty much Cammy just says, "Okay, really, that's enough with the accent." As Deku's just like, "But I don't know what you mean." And pretty much just like Cammy says, "Sure you don't, Ku-Kalame." And that's where I'm gonna head this over to Underworld. So take it away.
Where did you hear the name Cool Colame from? I heard it from a purple haired boy. Well, actually, no, I can't remember what his hair looked like. Apparently, he mentioned himself as Kiritsugu? What the fuck is Kiritsugu? Now I got someone else calling me that. Anyway, the accent is natural. I don't know what God, I just have it. Trust me, people don't know where it came from either. My parents just said I grew up with it. And I have that man over there pointing at Shinsou. I thought she got it from him. He calls me Kukalame all the time, and I fucking hate it. But other than that, what are you doing, love? I heard you got rescued by him. Yeah, that is true. And basically, Cammy just says, "Oh yeah, he did rescue me. Oh, I'll have to go say hello." And let's go say thank you to him for him. Oh, I already said thanks. And it's like, oh no, let me say thank you as well. Now he stops me completely from getting hurt. As he walks over to Shinsou and is like, "You fucking steal my thunder, you cunt." As Shinsou just says, "Fuck off, I don't want your thunder. I just want to be left alone, so get out my face, loudmouth." Fucking what? The Bakugo just chimes in, being annoying. He's like, "Heard him, shut the fuck up." He's like, as he basically just... Izuku is very annoyed, and then just a shape in the air and it's like, "What are you gonna do?" And then, as he's finishing the rune, Bakugo doesn't have a mouth. Can't speak. That silences the fucking what. I'm going to enjoy this for about the 20 minutes that lasts for. Also, can we please start sitting in our seats? That man over there is staring at us and I don't like it. As he motions to Ozawa, everybody just is like, how long has he been there for? And he's been there for at least 5 minutes. He's been watching us. Look at him. Just tired. As then Ozawa gets up and says, "It took you way too long to get settled down. I want you out in the fucking field now. I get paid enough to deal with your shit. Anybody who interjects or complains will be fucking kicked out. Now out into locker rooms and changed now." Kurako was about to interject, but Doria shot her a glare that just said, "Don't." And they all gesture off over into they'll start moving over towards the locker rooms. But they're getting changed. Everybody was noticing all the scars and all the muscle mass on Shinsou. Everybody was asking a bunch of questions, and he just kept brushing them off and ignoring them. And they did the same with Doria, except he was a lot more bulky, but he didn't have nearly as many scars. Maybe just a few scrapes from all the fights he had. And then one little thing caught the attention of Shinsou, which is where I'm going to let Crown take over.
Alright, so the thing that's able to catch, Shinzo's attention is a little purple-haired fucking muskrat trying to peep in on the girls, as he knows that Jiro's over there. And he just has, like, this instant feeling that this is not something that needs to be, looked through, and he needs to protect their privacy. So he goes over there, and sure enough, like it's Mineta trying to peek, as basically Shinjo just says, "All right, time alter, double excel," as he blitzes over there and does a spinning back heel kick to Mineta's head and stomping it into the wall, which, along with Jiro basically taking her headphone jack and putting it to Mineta's eye, poking it, it actually pierces Mineta's eye as Mineta's eyes starts to bleed as he starts to scream out. As basically everyone's just like, "What the fuck just happened?" As pretty much by the time they look over there to see what could happen, Shinzo was back over there getting dressed. As people are just like, "The hell just happened?" As basically Shinzo just says, "I don't know what could have happened." As he looks over there at Deku as he just says, "Don't say a word." As Deku just grins and says, "Oh no, I wasn't gonna say a word." As basically the two just walk out of there. As everyone's trying to see what's wrong with Mineta, as basically Shinzo says, "Hey, one of the kids had an accident in the locker room." And as I was just like, "Oh, son of a first day of school and someone's already getting hurt. Gosh damn it, what the hell's wrong with people these days?" As pretty much like Aizawa would just go over there as he would see Mineta's eye bleeding, as he would say, "Yep, well, you lost your eye." As pretty much he would tell Mineta to just go home and he's expelled. Like, don't come back to the school. You're not allowed to come back, as he would figure out that Mineta got that injury because he was trying to peek into the girls' locker room. So that he expels him on the spot like that. And since he lost an eye, I mean, really, kids just expelled on top of losing an eye. So, yeah, Recovery Girl ain't doing shit to help him. So, that's how that happens. And now we get to the part where it's a quirk assessment test. As Deku just says, "Well, I'm not actually going to even try on this." As pretty much Aizawa says, "Alright, so the person who got the highest amount of points was Izuku Midoriya." As he says that you got the most points because not only did you get your normal points, but you got 300 extra rescue points. So that puts you at top of everybody else in terms of points. His second runner-up is Hitoshi Shinzo. As basically Shinzo just says, "Neat." As pretty much he's just third amount Bakugo. As Bakugo's just like, "What? How am I third?" As basically, as I just says, statistics are statistics. You have the third amount of points. As pretty much, Shinzo's just like, huh, funny. As basically he tells Deku to throw the ball and use his power too as well. And basically, Deku says, "Alright then." As he draws a rune on the ball, and then he throws it, and then out of nowhere, the ball just erupts with a flame just spurring out of it right where Deku threw the rune at, and just shoots it even further out there. As it would get about 15,000 meters. As everyone would just look and would just say, "What the hell was that?" As pretty much Deku would just say, who knows? Maybe it's magic." As Shinzo would just say, "Oh yeah, you definitely got your thunder back now, don't you?" As Deku would look at him and say, "Damn right, you purple hair scrub." As Shinzo would just say, "Yeah, keep talking, Kalame." As basically Deku just glares as Shinzo smirks. As basically it's Deku's turn, and Deku, he says, "Yeah, I'm not gonna draw too much attention, and I'm not physically strong anyway, so this will be fine." As he takes the ball and he throws it, as he gets about 500 meters without really trying. I mean, he is a very physically strong person, but at the end of the day, he's not super strong either. So that's about the most he can get, as he knows he needed a hero record, and that's good enough to be a hero record. So, pretty much, that's where Shinsou gets. Bakugo gets his 700 as he's just starting to feel even better about himself now and thinking that he's over Shinsou. Shinsou may have just gotten lucky, as pretty much Shinzou's just like, well, whatever. As next up would just be going in order, except for when we get to Cammy. Now, Cammy, she gets somewhere around like the 300 meter range, like nothing too extraordinary, but that'd be hers. As pretty much through the race, like Shinzo would dominate it using his time alter, accelerate. He would just blitz it just because he wants to get first at something, as he doesn't want to get kicked out either. After all that fucking hard work and planning and training, yeah, he's not about to get kicked out. So Shinzo wins top prize in that one. Now, when it comes to the grip deal, Deku takes first place in that one, so he gets the first place because Uraka would still get Infinity, obviously. But, like, Deku would just use a rune to crush the fucking grip portion of the test, so there's nothing that could really beat that. As pretty much that'd be the end of the whole quirk assessment deal, and the two people that would be chosen as representatives would actually be Shinzo and Deku. But Shinzo would turn the offer down and say that Momo should be the one to go instead, as it would be Momo and Deku, but even Deku would just say, if I'm going to be up here with a lady, well then, I can't really complain that it's this one. I mean, just look at her beauty. As pretty much Shinzo would just say, like a dog in heat, ain't he? As he just starts picturing Deku, and he says, you know what, he has a really good dog face. As Jiro just starts laughing out of nowhere. As Aizawa says, what's so funny? Care to explain, Jiro? As she says, I'm just laughing, thinking of Midoriya as a dog. As Shinzo would say, he looks like a dog in heat up there, googling the girl. What's wrong, Midoriya? Cammy not enough for you? And that's where I'm gonna switch it back to Underworld, so take it away.
You can call me a dog, you cunt. The only dog I see here is that fucking annoying Chihuahua Bakugo. And excuse me if I have a dog face. It's called masculinity to think you don't have Shinsou. And as much as I'd like to stand up here with a pretty lady, I don't exactly enjoy very much hard work now, do I? Fucking hell. If you look at my test exams, you could easily see that I fucking flunked them on purpose. I only did the bare minimum of what I needed. As Aizawa raised an eyebrow and says, "Is this true?" And he's like, "Oh shit, I spoke a bit too much, didn't I? Oh, what are you doing? Oh, in trouble. Get no warning. You can do that kind of shit in my classroom again. I'll have you out of here." As Shinsou and Jiro started laughing, it's like, fuck up, both of yous. It's your fault I'm even in this situation. As I just ignore him, and then Cammy starts laughing as well. Like, fucking can't catch a break now, can I? As they arrive at the end of the day, Midoriya starts walking home as he's about to draw a rune, and then Cammy came up behind him and poked him. Was like, "Oh, Mr. Irishman, or should I call you Mr. Lame?" Like, just the Irishman, please. I hate that name. Alright then. Hey, Mr. Irishman, where are you? Wanna walk to the train station with me? Okay, I was just gonna teleport, but for a beautiful lady like you, why not? They just start walking along and talking. They saw Shinsou walking with Jiro and just said, "Oh, so you make fun of me for being a dog in here? You actually got yourself a girlfriend already." Alright, now I'll leave you to. We'll leave you two alone as he draws a rune and just grabs Cammy's wrist and then just teleports about 100 meters in front of them, further down the road, to where the train station was. Was like, I don't want to bother him too much. As much as he gives me shit, he at least is more tolerable than Bakugo. And then just says, oh, "Have a good night, beautiful. I don't catch such a train. I just teleport home, so I got my Metro card on me." As he waves her off and teleports home, he shifts over to where Shinsou was exterior into a side alley and begins her training with one of the rifles he had stored on him. Alright, see that bottle over there? Try aiming at it and keep your arms steady. Alright. After two shots with the silencer on, they had both missed, but on the third one, after Shinsou had just told her, "No, you must line yourself up correctly. I'm still out straight and both eyes on the target." After giving her precise instructions, she hit the bottle and it exploded out everywhere. But now, I'll leave this with you. Just be careful to hide it and try not to get yourself caught with it. So, hide it somewhere where nobody will find it. And then we'll come over to, as the next day arrives, they were all sitting in class, just talking, people chatting, and mostly ignoring Bakugo. All Might starts bursting through the door. "Oh, I am here like an old man through the door." And Deku just being very, not really giving a shit what he says, is like, "Come through the door screaming, do ya? I'd like to see what you are on a crazy day." As All Might just starts nervously laughing that off, he's like, "I got a witty there, young man." It comes in the job description, really. As he's like, let me get back to what I was trying to say. Today we are doing heroes versus villains. Now, it's like they always told me in the industry, clothes make the pros. And as you all submitted the designs to the costumes, they all have arrived, so let's move on to the training field. As they make their way out to Training Field Alpha, which was a replication of the city simulation that they had fought against in the entrance exam. It made its way over to this tall grey building, and after all of them have changed, some of the class were realizing, just looked at Deku with a wide-eyed expression, as he had a very, very strange costume. Costume wasn't very protecting, is what they thought, is because he had a fur coat almost, but it was an old style. A coat that wrapped around his waist and a open jacket that had nothing under it. Just you just see his plain skin with the abs and muscles poking out, almost like he was trying to show off, and a hood on the back. As well as him holding a giant cane with a few inscriptions on him. Everybody looked at him and was like, "Are you even allowed to have that?" "Well, it's, for some reason, I can't use weapons, but I can only use certain types of wood. This one is made of elder wood. It's a rare species that only grows after 100 years. I managed to track it down, and for some reason it resonates very well with my quirk." He lied because he knew that at this point what he was doing wasn't a quirk, it was magic. And after reading up on the runes, he just lied. He had a basic lie going through him. But now the true mystery was with Shinsou's outfit, and I'll flip this back to you, Crown.
So with Shinsou's outfit, it's going to be a pure black suit with a gray undershirt and a black long trench coat. As people are looking at him and they're like, hold on a minute, what's going on? Like, what is this outfit of yours? Are you a businessman or are you a hero? Like, what's going on with you? As pretty much just like he says, for one, the suit is ballistic proof. Projectiles won't get through it. It's Kevlar. As the trench coat, it's fireproof. As the suit itself, the gray undershirt, has a layer of insulation for extra protection and heat against cold weather. So that's just something that is actually needed. Basically, he just tells them that it's designed to just be for all around use. After all, he doesn't want anything really flashy, and this is the best deal for covert missions as a hero. And everyone's just like, oh, okay, but what type of hero would you be? And Shinsou just says, a hero of justice. One that will get the job done no matter what it takes or what the cost. As All Might's listening to this, and he's just like, you sound a lot like a nighttime hero. Are you sure you came to the right school? And Shinzo says, you're the best school, right? Surely you can make a hero of any type of caliber. So, if you guys fail to make a hero, it's just bad publicity on you, not the student for picking the school that's advertised to be the best in all departments. Am I correct in that? As All Might would say, we got a smart mouth and a jokester. Well, isn't this a lovely class you got here, Aizawa? As he just says, okay, well, here we go. We're gonna go ahead and try to get this started. Now then, here is the deal of the exercise. We're having heroes versus villains. We'll have 2v2 matches set up in each building, as no two people will fight in the same building. So, after one match, we'll switch the building location to another place where we have another doomsday device set up. Now, here's how it's going to work. For villains, you need to either capture or just stall until the time runs out. And by meaning capture, you need to capture both members of the hero team and you win. Now, for heroes, these are the ways that you can win. For one, if you plant your hand on the Doomsday device, it will be considered disarmed and you will win. But if you capture both villain members as well, you will win. And of course, they can only be considered captured if they're tied up in this special capture tape. So, with that, I've explained the rules. Now then, let's pick the teams by lottery. So, this is what the teams are going to be for Shinsou, and then I'll let Underworld explain Deku's situation when we get to that. So, for Shinsou, he's fighting with Jiro on his team against Bakugo and Uraraka. Now, Uraraka is pretty hyped, as Bakugo is pretty excited to be fighting Shinsou and not Deku, since he's fought Deku all throughout middle school and never won a single fight once. So, he's pretty confident in his ability to beat Shinsou. Little does he know, Shinsou has been training Jiro in kill tactics, meaning assassination techniques. As basically unaware to any of them, Shinsou has secret weapons hidden all throughout his trench coat, so he's not going to go down that easily. As Shinsou gets into position, waiting for Bakugo and Uraraka to finish setting up, people are saying that, Shinsou and Jiro being the, hero team looks a bit weird since they're both wearing all black. Because yes, Jiro's outfit did get a redesign. Instead of her wearing her punk rock gear, she's actually wearing a full suit that has the same capabilities as Shinsou's, because Shinsou told her that she would need some better gear. But her boots can still produce sonic sounds, so she's pretty set. As All Might just says, alright, go on in. As Shinsou says, you remember the plan? As Jiro says, of course, She plugs herself in and listens for their location. Revealing it, Shinzo says, "Alright, time alter. Triple XL." As he blitzes into there, knocks out Uraka with one hand chop, does a spinning back kick to Bakugo's face, which completely shatters his skull and knocks out 10 of his teeth. As Bakugo hits the ground, and Shinzo immediately puts his hand on the device, declaring himself the victor. And just so you guys know, like the triple XL literally triples his body's movement speed at a fraction of a second. So he can cover a whole lot of ground in just fractions of a second immediately. It's an incredibly fast ability, but it does have some recoil on his body, which Shinzo has to deal with. So he's a bit out of breath at the moment, but overall, he did a clean and decisive victory and embarrassed Bakugo at the process. So, yeah. Next up is, Deku's fight. But before Deku starts fighting, Shinzo goes over there and says, "Hey, Kuka lame, you better not lose. Otherwise, it'll make you look bad, and I'll steal your thunder again. So, go out there, be flashy, get their attention off of my fight. I don't like being in the spotlight, and you know that. So, go ahead and handle that. Also, one more thing. If you ever, immediately, ever suggest that she's my girlfriend, I will fucking shoot you in your kneecap. And no, that is not a little tease. It's a promise. So, Underworld, you're up."
Threaten me all you want, fucking you purple-haired bitch. However, I will take you up on your offer of the stealing of thunder. I'm gonna have some fun doing this. I wanna get something boring. I don't have to be so bored all the time. As it is the team of Kami and Deku versus Momo and Todoroki. And as they make their way into the building, Deku is just flirting with Kami. And it's like, sit back, love. Let me just, I don't want to see you get hurt. Don't want to hurt that pretty face of yours either. Sit back and watch what I can do. And Kami's like, oh yeah, tough man? You gotta try and find the bomb first before you start trying to find your way into my heart. Or in my pants. Ho, if that's all I need to do to get in there, consider yourself set. So he takes his cane and smacks the wall, and a bit of rubble flies out of it. He picks it up and she's like, "What do you reckon? Breaking it and copying Jiro will work for you?" He said I was copying her. As he breathes, takes up the stone and breathes into his hand. Work on there. Like, what? As he throws the stone onto the ground, and then a light trail appears. Alright, well, if you follow this, we should be able to get there in no time. What was that? That's my power, love. Runes. Runes, that's your power? It sounds a lot worse than it actually is. If I chant a certain incantation, I can summon fire, water, wind, track, and even defend. However, it does require a bit of my energy. I see. What about yours? I might as well know what what you have up your sleeve as well. Well, and she basically successfully blows a kiss at Deku. I can make the wildest illusions appear in front of you. As there is just an illusion of Momo standing in front of Deku. Oh ho ho! Isn't that a fun power? Alright then, I've got an idea. I'll take the distraction and lure Momo out. I've got a rune that can convince people to do what I want. Really. And I just need you to have your illusion ready. Alright? So, as they walk, making their way up the stairs, Izuku starts writing out a rune. But us, as then he flicks a stone, and it hits Momo on the back without creating any sound. Something weird happens. She starts walking into the hallway, repeating words that Izuku's saying under his breath. Stay here, Todoroki. I'm just gonna go check the hallway. Then she starts walking out to the hallway right to where Izuku is, and then he takes the two of his fingers and taps on the forehead and says, "Sleep," and catches her before she makes a sound. Okay, it's your job now. She blows a puff of her illusion and then walks in front of it. Do you reckon if I start showing off a bit more, I'd look like Momo? You can show off to me all you like, but we didn't need to take it serious apparently. We need to show that purple-haired prick what's up. As Cammy starts walking up to Todoroki, then starts playing a action game. And she tries to distract Todoroki from what she's actually doing, and then gets very close. It's like, Naruto, I wanted to do this since I first met you. As he's starting to get flustered, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, gotcha. See, as she kicks Shoto out from his feet out from under him, and then gets behind on his back and says, "You fell right for my trap." And then she brings out the capture tape from wherever she was hiding it in that costume of hers, and then slings around his wrists as All Might declares, "Girls win." Wait, what happened? As then the illusion fades. It's like, I fooled you, didn't I? Messy heart. Wait, then what happened to Momo? It's like, I took care of that already. As Deku walks in with Momo slung over his shoulder. Didn't want to hurt the lady, so I thought I'd just put her to sleep and have a nice dream. As they walk out, he looks at Shinsou and just says, "Hey, is that good enough for you?" Shinsou just ignores him. Well. So, after all the fights conclude, they all gather up, and then All Might asks, "Oh, what? Who thinks that who reckons which team did the best?" As they all have a bit of a split between Shinsou and Doria. Go just being angry but unable to speak properly because missing half of his teeth. All he can mumble is go, yeah, there we go, we can't understand him. It's much better now. Everybody just starts giggling as he just goes, didn't even have to use a spell to shut him up. Everybody was giving their advice into who did best and who did it quicker. While one of the students says, "Well, since I did get it much quicker, Midoriya was able to hide behind enemy lines and take out without causing unnecessary violence, restrain them." As he goes, "Thank you very much. I don't like to use violence unless it's unnecessary, especially against a pretty lady." As then he winks at Momo, but then turns to Cammy and's like, "But I think my teammate was prettier." she just says like, yeah, right, Irish boy. And then I'm gonna flip it back over to Crown.
So that's when Shinzo actually starts to chime in a little bit, as he just says, you know, for once you were actually kind of useful. And that's when Deku says, what do you mean kind of useful? As basically Shinzo just says, well, for one, you just let a lot of time go to waste. If this was a real world scenario, they would have detonated the bomb as soon as the fucking smoke started going in. So, in other words, you were too slow and you could have caused a lot of people to lose their lives because of you wanting to go in and take it nice and slow, your sweet time. As for one, you almost ran out. So, I think my team did the better overall and got a more clear and decisive victory at a more faster time. And that would have saved a lot of people's lives if this were a real scenario. And that's when All Might says, honestly, I'd have to agree. Shinzo's team did the best overall, with leaving the villains out cold, disarming the device, and doing it at a record time of 3 seconds. As pretty much, basically, Shinzo would say, thank you. As he would say, alright, class dismissed. As everyone would go back, as they would change out of their clothes, as Shinzo would go back into the classroom, as that's when Todoroki would walk up to him and say, hey, what is your quirk? As Shinzo would just tell him to fuck off. As that's when Kaminari would walk up and say, oh, come on, man, don't be like that. We're just trying to talk to you, be friendly. As Shinzo would look back and say, what do I need friends for? You're just unimportant people that will eventually slow me down, or worse, you get attached to me and make me get attached to other people. You're a weakness that people can use against me. It's unnecessary to have attachments in this world. So with that, fuck off. As he walks off, and Kaminari just says, oh, then what's Jiro to you? As basically Shinzo just turns his head and says, she's just a partner. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't think too much into it. As he walks off. As basically the teachers of Class 1A and 1B are talking and they say, we should have a joint training exercise. As he says, we got the USJ coming up, so how about it? Do you want to go ahead and do the USJ as our joint training? As I would just say, you know what, that's an excellent idea. Vlad would just say, I'm alright with it. So the teachers would all agree, and Nezu would sign off on that the USJ would be held between Class 1A and 1B as a kind of friendly competition between the classes that would strengthen relations and increase their spirits. But Aizawa makes one thing known to them, that he has one student he's actually concerned about. As Nezu says, oh, what student are you so concerned about? As he would say, his name is Shinsou. He's a lot more brutal than any student I've ever seen before, but he does effective work. I don't know what could have happened to him in the past, but at the same time, there's just some darkness in his eyes that just doesn't seem to go away. It's like it's always there, and it creeps out in his fights. He's brutal but effective, always hitting his opponent's weak spots and never giving them a moment to fight back. He moves too fast for people to see him, which means he's extremely unpredictable and is effectively a brilliant nighttime hero as well. Honestly, he scares me a bit. If something ever happens to push him over the edge, well, he would be the worst villain that we could have ever seen in the entire history of Japan. As Nezu says, so you think we should get him counseling? As Aizawa says, yes, I think mental help could honestly keep him balanced out and we could try to lighten him up a bit, not make it to where he's overly dark and depressed. We need to bring some life into him, and hopefully that darkness in his eyes will lift. Otherwise, I fear what could happen if he goes out of control. So, the next few days that happen is basically Shinzo is training Jiro like constantly, like all the way through. Just like he's training her with her new gun, which the gun he actually ended up giving her is the Calico M950, as he would honestly just keep training her with that, as she would get used to the high velocity of rounds coming out all the time, since it is an automatic weapon. As he would go from alleyway to alleyway different times, but this time they'd be in the forest. But that's when they would hear something, as Shinzo would immediately be on high alert, hearing that there are some people in here. He would just immediately be on guard as he would pull out the Walther WA-2000, which is a sniper rifle that can also be turned into an automatic rifle as well. So it has mid-range and long-range capabilities. As he gets down onto the scope, as he's looking through it, as that's when he sees Deku. He's doing some weird shit. The vines, they're listening to him moving, as he would say, "This can't be right. The fuck's going on?" As that's when he would see that Deku's training his runes, but it's more than that. He's trying something. So Shinzo just says, he's always been a pain in the ass, so better try to take him out here and now. As he locks on and has a clear shot, it's his head. Shinzo tells Jiro to go. He doesn't need to see this. As Jiro says, okay then, I'll be on my way out. As she would run back without making a noise. So, with Deku being locked and loaded, he would just say, alright. Well, Shinzo being locked and loaded, not Deku. He would just say, okay, well, sorry, but nothing personal. It's just, I can't ever risk you finding out who I am. As he would just pull the trigger. As basically the bullet would start going, flying right through, tearing through everything. It would hit Deku, but nothing would happen. He would be confused. He'd be like, what the hell? It didn't hit. And he's just like, fuck. Well, I gotta get out of here. Although he knows a time altar would cause too much trouble and he could potentially be trapped. So he decides to use something else he's had up his sleeve. Time altar, triple stagnant, which is to the point to where his heartbeat cannot be heard, it can't be traced. His breathing, you can't tell he's there. His body temperature, it's equaled out with the room temperature of any environment. He becomes completely silent as well, as he just runs off, not leaving anything behind to follow him on. And that's where I'm going to hand it right back over to Underworld to explain what's going through Deku's mind after he was just about shot and killed. So, Underworld?
What was that? As he just hear, as he has a loud shot ringing throughout his ears, something was trying to kill me. I felt it go through me. What happened? It was the runes, wasn't it? As he was testing out a new spell that he was trying to configure the runes in some way to be able to create a bunch of new effects. And one of these effects was something called the Garden of the Underworld. He summons a portal that sucks anything in. And for some reason, he thought it didn't work, but the bullet that went right through him got evaporated. Physical form as it just hit him, was absorbed. It was lucky that if he didn't do that, he would have been dead. He tried to use a colonel to trace wherever or whoever shot him, picking up a stone and then breathing into it. What do you mean? How was there no trace? Yep, he tried to use the spell again, but it just wouldn't work. Over they are. Yeah, they are good. As he leaves the area and teleports back home, and tries to calm himself down after being nearly killed. This must be the same person who's been killing all those other people. Why did he go after me? Over the next few days, he's just been pondering this question, and Cammy breaks his deep thoughts in the middle of class and's like, "Hey, Ukulame, you alright?" Nah, you call me that, and sorry, I got lost in my head. What are you doing? Thinking of another girl? Like, the only one I want to picture is you, but that's not what I was thinking of. Something other than women? It must be quite serious. You could say that. Ran into a problem the other day, and it nearly got hurt pretty badly. Well, what happened? I was in the forest and a tree branch nearly hit me in the head. Oh, you're quite clumsy, aren't you? I suppose you could say so. Well, it shocked me, is what I thought of it at first, and then I tried to figure out why did that nearly happen. Are you alright? It was just a tree branch. It could happen to anybody. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to worry you like that, love. You'd rather a joke instead? Unless you told... What do you mean a joke? You're already in front of me. I see you're a funny one too, love. I mean, if you can make jokes at me, I can make jokes at you, pretty boy. Well, I once heard someone great once say this: "You're pretty, I'm pretty. Let's go home and stare at each other." And she just started laughing. In your dreams, Irishman. Oh, I'll be seeing you in my dreams, that's for sure. Aizawa throws a notebook at Izuku in the head. Stop interrupting my class. Get this fuck out. Did you let the throat so hard, teach? You're interrupting the class and you annoy me. The only reason you're not in class 1B is because you actually have good grades for some unknown reason. Bloody slacker. As then he just starts glaring at Izuku and he's like, alright, I won't cause any commotion. Better. As then the next day rolls around and it's the USJ. As everybody meets up at class at first, and then Aizawa says, "Alright, students, we got something special prepared. Instead of the usual curriculum, we've got a joint exercise with Class 1B. Everybody's just thinking, joint exercise, what could that entail? As he says, this is going to be a rescue operation. And we're going to a facility that is owned by the school called the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. As everybody just starts oohing and ahhing at what this means, it says you're given free control of your quirks to try and save as many people as you can in a disaster or a big scenario that happens that pros have to deal with on a constant. So, in about 5 minutes, line up outside the school and we'll take you over to the buses. As everybody's getting into the buses, Izuku is just pondering off to himself as he gets shouted by Ida. Come on, Doria, in the bus now. Yeah, you loudmouth. Jeez, I know I'm loud, but jeez, you give Bakugo a run for his money, and that's a hard bar to beat. And this is where I'm gonna flip it back over to Crown.
Alright, listen up here, you fucking cuckoo lame. Just get in the bus, you're making it harder on everybody. And for one, I'd rather not hear Mr. Blue-haired glasses, wannabe RoboCop bitch-ass, keep going on and on and on. As Ida just says, what, RoboCop? What the hell are you calling me RoboCop for? As Shinsou just says, look, for one, your outfit, it kind of looks like a RoboCop ripoff. And Ingenium really is a robotic ass name. And you act like the fucking police. So, RoboCop, there's your new hero name. As he was like, oh wait, no, that's copyrighted to hell. Guess we're gonna have to call you Ingenium then. As Ida just looks at Shinsou and just says, you know, for someone who's wanting to stay off the radar, you really are pissing me off. And Shinsou just says, what are you gonna do about it? I'm faster than you. And wait a minute, isn't speed your whole thing? Yeah, sorry. There's no way you can ever compare to me. So shut the fuck up, sit down, put on your seatbelt before I kick your fucking leg in. As basically, Ida just says, the fuck did you just say? As Aizawa just says, alright, enough. Everyone, next person who speaks is getting expelled. I've had enough of this shit to last a lifetime. You guys want to bicker and act like fucking toddlers? I can send your asses right back to kindergarten. So shut the fuck up. As Ida just sits down begrudgingly. As the buses are loaded, they take off to the USJ. So, basically, when they get there, the last person off the bus is Ida, just because Ida's still pissed. Like, he was getting on to Midoriya's ass for not following the rules and all that shit. And then fucking just Shinsou jumped on his ass and told him to shut up. And he just says, like, what the hell's going on with those two? As pretty much, like, they get in there as Shinzo's eyeballing everyone from Class 1B as they're standing there. And then he notices this orange-haired girl looking over at him as he just notices her out the corner of his eye as she waves. As Shinzo waves back as Jiro looks and says, who's that? As Shinzo says, don't know, but it's best to try and appear nice. I don't want the teachers looking too hard into my past. As pretty much as I would call Shinsou out, and Shinsou would go over there, and as I would say, hey, look, after this, we're gonna have you stay late after school today. We have a counselor coming over, and they're gonna take a look at your mental health to make sure you're actually mentally able to be a hero. So, this is just something that has to happen, and if you want to keep attending the school, you're going to have counseling every day throughout the full rest of your stay here. And Shinzo says, even if I'm perfectly sane, you're going to make me talk to a counselor. And as I was says, look, if you're perfectly sane, then we won't have you do it. But if there's anything off about your mental state, then we're going to have you talk to the counselor every day until we can get you, 100%. Because to be honest, there's a darkness in your eyes, and it scares me. As Shinzo just looks at him and says, it should. As he tries to walk away from Aizawa, but Aizawa grabs his arm and says, Is that a threat? And Shinzo says, tell me, Aizawa, is your mother still alive? Your father? Were you ever abandoned by them? As Aizawa says, no. Shinzo says, oh, interesting. Because my biological parents abandoned me. My adopted father, well, there was a villain attack back in elementary school. As I was trying my best to save everybody, my father came in and got held captive. His gun slid onto the floor. I grabbed it, picked it up. I looked at him. As I looked, I could see the fear in his eyes. I could see the serial killer's fear as well. He had a knife to his throat. And I had the gun. I instinctively knew how to use it. Cocked it, made sure it was loaded, took the safety off. I pointed it right at my father and the serial killer. I thought, if I drop this gun, he'll kill him, and then he'll kill everyone in here and get away. So, to save the majority, I sacrificed everything. A father that actually loved and cared about me. And I pulled the trigger. I shot him straight through his heart, and it didn't go all the way through the serial killer, but he did drop to the floor. I took the gun, I put it in his mouth as I looked at him, and I told him I'd see him in hell as I pulled the trigger, splattering his brains out all over the floor as I then dropped the gun. And I had to spend a solid 3 years in counseling because the police thought I was mentally unstable, that I was emotionally inept, that I wasn't fit to be a normal person. They tried to put me in an asylum, and, they tried to control me. Don't. For once in your life, drop it and let it go. Otherwise, you won't like what's hidden in the dark. As he walks away, as he gets back to where Jiro's at, as Jiro says, what was that about? As he says, don't worry about it. As she says, okay. And basically, they start hearing the explanation from 13, as that's when Kurogiri shows up with all of the villains, which is doubled in this because 2 classes, double the villains. So basically the doors, they shut behind them and lock them inside as Kurogiri scatters everybody, not just like a majority of the people, no, everyone gets scattered. And this is where I'm going to kick it over to Underworld. He's going to explain what happens to Deku, and then I'm going to explain what happens to Shinsou. So, Underworld, take it away.
Okay. So, Deku gets split up with 5 other students. He gets split up with Rinama, Ami, Rupi, and Kendo. As they were all put onto the shipwreck zone, as they could see around them a bunch of 30 or 40 villains circling them in the water, attacking the ship. As he looks over and says, "Oh, we're in a pretty bad spot, aren't we?" As Cammy just says, "This is not really a time for jokes, Irish boy. Oh, loosen up, love. Any time's a joke." Well, might as well get rid of them. And they're just like, how are you gonna get rid of? They'll look at him with the same look and it's like, how are you gonna get rid of 40 villains in one go? As he just said, I mold your room. ISS. Then a huge storm started appearing above them, as a tornado started whipping down onto the waterfront, picking up all the villains and launching them everywhere. As Izuku's arm is following where the tornado is going. What are you doing? He's like, controlling the weather. It'll be quite obvious, honestly. As he picked up the last villain, and he's like, there we go. Now, zero. As the tornado implodes on itself, and they get sent flying and they hit the water again, all knocked unconscious. He snaps another rune to teleport them all into dry land. There we go. That was quite easy now, wasn't it? What the hell are you? Garnchill Girl said to Midoriyan's like, I'm handsome is what I am. And you're pretty. As she brushes she's just too flustered at the situation to understand what the hell's going on with him. Don't worry, pretty little head. Well, as you, Cammy. Sit back and watch the show. As he teleports over to where the mass of villains is piled up, ready, and where Aizawa, Blood King, and 13 were fighting. 13 had just been injured as she was trying to attack Kurogiri. And Kurogiri just reflected her attack right back at her, critically injuring her. He's like, oh, dare hurt a woman in my presence. As Deku just comes looming behind him. As Kurogiri is like, what does a mere child offer to entertain? This mere child can whoop your ass. As he snaps his runes and a binding spell is put on Kurogiri, and he's like, I can't move. I can't use my work. Isn't that right, Cloaky? Shadows. As he picks him up and darts him right at where Shigaraki's standing. I'm going to assume you little prat shits are who are running the show. Kick your ass and find out how tough these villains are. As he starts whipping through a few of the villains, throwing fire and pulling Aizawa back when he was about to get hit by a giant bird-like monster. Shall teach. That one's not human. I haven't sensed any life from it. How can you tell that? It looks human enough for me, just that it must be a mutation quirk. Unless you got about 6,000 years worth of inbreeding, I don't think that's going to be any sort of mutation quirk. It's not living, so it needs to die. This bullet starts soaring right. Bullet starts whipping through and hits the giant bird-like villain, or known as the blue-haired Pratt, ordered. Giant bullet whips through and destroys its brain. The fuck was that? As he can only see Shinsou standing there, but behind where the villain was standing, now fallen to the ground dead. You said this thing wasn't living, so well, killed it. So I'm gonna flip it back to ground.
So I'm gonna go ahead and explain what Shinsou was doing up until that moment. So basically, what Shinsou was doing is when he got separated, he was by himself. He had nobody there to actually help him whatsoever. As he would just pull out the Thompson and be ready. And he just started shooting each and every member of the League of Villains that he came across, as he would see that Jiro was in danger, as he just hit her up on the microphone in there, and he heard nothing but static. So he said, oh, to hell with this. He would see a hostage situation as he would shoot one bullet, as he would say, sorry kid, but can't risk you actually getting the rest of them killed. So he would shoot right through Kaminari's skull, as the bullet would exit right out through that electric type villain's skull as well. As Jiro would knew who just did that. She would not say a name, but tears would be in her eyes, as the man she loved just died. But she understood why it had to happen, as she just starts crying uncontrollably, as that's when Jiro just plugs her headphone jacks into her boots and just lets it rip, like full blast. She doesn't care anymore, as it starts bursting the eardrums of anyone around her, meaning Momo's eardrums get ruptured. As Deku is over there, as Shinsou sees him, and he just says, well, I guess I better pay attention to that. As he does, Time Alter, Triple Excel. And while he's in his Triple Excel state, he hears something that Deku's saying, that it's not alive. So, Shinsou stops dead in his tracks as he looks and says, well, this could be a good moment to test it out. So, what does Shinsou do? He looks all around the surrounding area as he sees Kurogiri, as he also sees Shigaraki right beside him. He says, another thing, alright, let's just use an origin bullet on that fucking Nomu looking thing. So, he takes his Thompson, as he empties out the normal bullet he had in there, as he puts in an origin bullet, as he closes it back up. As he looks at the Nomu, and he opens fire right there on it, while Nomu just drops dead right in front of his feet. Then he holds his gun over there to Kurogiri, as he says, you know, you probably think that a normal bullet could never hurt you. Well, let's see if you're still saying that after this. As he holds his gun right there at him, saying, I'm gonna have to say a little incantation. So, he takes a deep breath and says, I have spent my whole life trying to save everyone, yet I could never save the people closest to me. As I walk throughout the darkness, forever unheard, there is one thing I can do. I pray for unlimited time origin. And then he fires the bullet directly at Shigaraki and Kurogiri. And when that happens, it creates a reality marble that only Shinsou can enter, as he goes over there and walks into it, as he looks at Kurogiri and Shigaraki and says, here's what's going to happen. You're about to feel the wrath of everyone I've ever killed with an origin bullet. As he says, oh, and don't worry, you're going to be joining their ranks soon enough. As the Nomu spirit would appear inside of the reality marble, as it would tear Shigaraki apart, limb from limb. It would stick its hands right inside of its mouth and would rip Shigaraki in half. As Kurogiri's soul would be attacked by all the other people, as he would die painfully and slowly. As the reality marble would fall apart, Shinsou would be the only one left standing there, with a gun in his hand, as he would look out and say, all right, problem solved. Now let's get out of here. And that's when I'm going to kick it right back over to Underworld, so take it away.
Witnessing that the Nomu's body as well as Nomu's body was gone, and then Shigaraki and Kurogiri went missing. He's like, where did they go? He must have used that ability of his somewhere else. As he goes over to he looks over to his eye and says, can you still fight? He's like, bet your ass I can. As he goes, alright, let's teach these plat shits how it's done. And then he starts conjuring up runes and places one towards Aizawa. This rune is called Ewas, It makes your skin harder and your punches hit harder. You can use it to beat down these villains. I'm going to have some fun with these ones. As he faces towards a bunch of small random villains, and then just calls, Anta no Gelba. As a bunch of roots start forming out of the ground, ripping up and encircling the villains, crushing them, knocking them unconscious, but not killing them. He then writes another rune on the ground in front of him. No Gebak. As an eruption of fire starts encircling the tree, and then he writes two more runes. Alright, this is going to be my last attack, but it should get rid of all of them. Here it goes. He claps his hands together and says, Gate of Underworld. As the tree sets ablaze and a ring of fire starts encircling around, as a bunch of fairies start coming out of the portal and attacking the villains. They seem to be draining them of their energy, and they're all fading into unconsciousness. As I was just shocked, and it's like, what did you just do? And it's like, I might have summoned in a few of my companions. Companions? Those aren't even fucking human, he said. Like, you said my companions were human. Like, as a natural druid, I have a spirit with death and connection to all things mystical. Like you said your quirk was runes, not druid. Runes was just a cover. What druids use, but this is the true extent of my power. As he then slams his hand into the ground, as the gateway starts collapsing, and all the villains are knocked out unconscious on the ground. The teachers and the students that can see him are just shocked as he falls to one knee and is like, ugh. As Azal rushes over, are you hurt? What? Did you get hit? It's like, nah, just a bit tired. As he sees Cammy walk over and's like, he calls out, do you want to give me a lap pillow, love? Might restore my energy much quicker. As then Cammy just basically blushes a bit, but basically after saving her life, I think that's the least she thought she could do for him. Like, as he sits back and's like, this is what it means to be a hero. And are you sure you wouldn't mind letting you do this to me all the time? I can get used to this. As she flicks him on the forehead and says, you're only getting this once, Kuka lame. Sure, love. So they all say it first. As then a massive burst of energy comes from the middle of the battlefield. As then just sees a person that's been ripped in half. A quirkless now dead Kurogiri laying limp on the ground, and Shinsou standing over top of them. So I'm going to flip it back over to you, Crown.
As Shinsou would just say, well, what are you all looking at? I did what had to be done. As Aizawa would say, what did you do? As Shinsou would just say, I activated my noble phantasm. As I would be like, noble what now? As basically, Shinsou would just say, noble phantasm. Now, what are you wanting to do? As Aizawa just says, you could be put in jail for this. As Shinsou just says, yeah, well, I don't care. I did what had to be done. I saved the lives of the majority. As that's when Jiro walks up and says, not all of us got out alive. As she would point to Kaminari's body, as basically Aizawa's eyes would widen as he would say, did you shoot him? Did you kill this man? As Shinsou would just say, no, not at all. As basically, he would just say that he doesn't know what happened to him. As he would look at Jiro, and Jiro would just hold back the tears and would say, there's no way he could have shot him. The bullet came from the opposite direction. I don't know what could have happened. As Aizawa just doesn't like the feeling, like it's not adding up to him. But he has a testimony from a person that was right there. And Momo says that she never saw Shinsou, even though she can't hear, but they're writing it out for her, as Jiro's extremely sorry that she ruptured Momo's eardrums. As pretty much all of Class 1B and 1A would just be like having to go through mandatory psychiatric evaluations. As they would leave, Shinsou would be comforted by his aunt Makoto, as the other officers would look at Shinsou and they would say, so I heard you save some people. As Shinsou would say, yeah, I did. My way. As the officers would say, you would make Namasa proud. If he knew what you did today, he'd be proud of you. As Shinsou would just shrug it off and not say anything. As Aizawa would be confused with how the police just treat Shinsou. As he would go over there to that officer and ask for all the details, as they would explain in more detail what Shinsou was telling Aizawa. That the kid never shed a tear when he had to kill his old man. That he's had a tough life, and that some people in the force did want to control him, but they all got their badges pulled, so they were no longer in the force. So basically, Shinsou's like family to every police officer that served with Naomasa, as they look out for him, as pretty much like whatever Shinsou could need at the time, like they'll take him places, they'll watch out for him. And some of the cops have a pretty good idea on what it is that Shinsou does with all these killings, and they just turn a blind eye to it. Because in their minds, Shinsou is doing the right thing. And Shinsou's not really needed for anything else. But there is something that comes in the mail. It's a letter. And it's written to Shinsou, as they say, we know what you are. Come to the clock tower. We'll also be inviting Izuku Midoriya. We'll expect you the 1st of the next month. And that's where I'm going to kick it right back over to Underworld to give us what Deku's doing, and then I'm going to close this out. So
Deku, after regaining his strength a bit and undoubtedly enjoying the lap pillow he's been given by Kami, gets up and says, come on, couldn't you just give me 5 more minutes? Well, we do appreciate you saving the majority of the class. You can at least get up your sorry ass. Is that how you treat someone that just saved you? Yes, because heroes do not get time to rest. Come on. Such a stick in the mud. Anyway. Well. Let me see his body. Kaminari's, what are you gonna do? It's like, going to make sure he gets sent to the afterlife. As he reads a glyph that draws a glyph on Kaminari's body. His body starts glowing, and then a few particles raise up to the sky. There we go. You just do. Soul is now passed on. I've learned that through my runes I can give people a happier fate. Better than going into the nothingness that is just the void of life. As he walks away, as I was quite shocked at how serious he actually was when he was talking about death and life. I didn't think that somebody like him could actually be serious. It's quite odd. As he then just turns back and is like, "Oh, that's alright, Teach. Do you want me to get the recovery girl here? I can teleport here and back to the school." Wait, you could what? Why didn't you teleport the teachers here and like... Well, I got the job done, and it would have just caused unnecessary violence. Yeah. It's like, oh, I said too much, didn't I? It's like, yep. You're just lucky that nobody else got hurt, mate. But I'm giving you a warning. If you ever neglect to do that, I will have you suspended or worse, expelled, because you could have saved somebody's life. Yes, I could have saved somebody's life, but at what cost of another? If I must have to bend over and fucking take it up the arse just to save one person when I could save the people right in front of me right now. We know better than that guy over there, as he points to Shinsou. Oh yeah, and what you said about the personal psychiatric evaluations. Fucking just get them over and done with. Talk about my problems and leave. Because now Deku is actually pissed off for some reason. He says, "I assume we can go home now." It's like, yeah, wait for the authorities to take you home. No need. He snaps his fingers and he just teleports back home and falling down onto his bed. Fucking right, this day has been shit. As I think this is where we're gonna end off part 2, sorry, to the series of. And do you wanna end us off as well, Crown?
Yeah, I'm gonna cover the last little bit here and then we'll end it off. So, while Shinzo's on the way home, Makoto asks, like, if he had to kill anyone in there. Shinzo says, yeah, a few. Although, one person said that they'd be no better than me, assuming that I'm just an itch for the kills. They don't know what I'm actually like. They don't know what I would sacrifice to save them all. As that's when Makoto's car gets hit head-on by an 18-wheeler. Shinzo is rattled around as he looks up as he sees his aunt's not moving. As he says, "What happened?" As he just looks up as the truck driver said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there. I'm sorry." As Shinzo fades out of consciousness and wakes up in the hospital. But that's where I'm leaving it off. I hope you guys enjoyed. I've been the Crown Fiend. I want to thank King of Underworld for coming on and doing this collab, and his channel will be linked in the description below. Or if you guys want to view part 1, I've created a playlist for it on my channel, and part 2 will be added to that playlist. So, as always, keep calm, praise the Emperor, Crown Fiend, and enjoy your day.